Imagine this. You wake up in a room with no doors. The walls are blank, the air thick with silence. There's a mirror in front of you, but when you look into it, the reflection isn't yours. It's a stranger, someone you've never met, yet somehow recognize. A voice, neither yours nor anyone else's, whispers, "Who are you when no one is watching?" You try to answer, but your tongue feels heavy. The words won't come, because the truth is you don't know. You've spent years becoming what others wanted. The dutiful child, the reliable friend, the employee who meets expectations. You've collected identities like costumes, slipping into roles so seamlessly you forgot they weren't yours. But here, in this silent room, there are no roles left to play. No applause, no judgment, no script, just you. And that's the most terrifying question of all. Who is you? We spend our lives searching for purpose, for love, for success, yet we rarely stop to ask the one question that could unravel everything. Who is the one doing the searching? We mistake our desires for identity. We believe that if we chase enough external validations, promotions, relationships, social approval, we'll finally feel like ourselves. But it never works. The hunger remains, the emptiness lingers. Why? Because you cannot find yourself in the places you've been taught to look. Society is a hall of mirrors, reflecting back distorted versions of who you should be. From childhood, you've been handed maps. Go to school, build a career, find a partner, accumulate things, as if life were a checklist, rather than an unfolding mystery. But what if the map was wrong? What if the person you've been trying to become was never yours to begin with? Here's the unsettling truth. Most people live their entire lives without ever meeting themselves. They chase dreams planted in them by parents, partners, or the silent pressures of culture. They confuse their likes with their self, their opinions with their soul. They wear personalities like rented suits, never stopping to ask, who would I be if no one had ever told me who to be? The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once warned, "No one can build you the bridge on which you and only you must cross the river of life." Yet most never even reach the riverbank. They remain stranded on the shore of borrowed identities, too afraid to step into the unknown. But what if the unknown is where you begin? Consider this paradox. You are both the prisoner and the jailer. The chains holding you back are not made of steel, but of stories. Stories you've been told about what you're capable of, what you deserve, what's realistic. You've internalized them so deeply that they feel like truth. But they are not yours. They are echoes of other people's fears, other people's limits. So why do we cling to them? Because the known, no matter how suffocating, feels safer than the abyss of uncertainty. It's easier to live a life that isn't yours than to face the terrifying freedom of inventing one that is. The French existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the act of lying to yourself to avoid the burden of choice. But here's the catch. You are already free. You just don't feel it yet. The room with no doors is your mind. The stranger in the mirror is the self you've yet to meet. And the question hanging in the air is the only one that matters. When will you stop running from the one person? You don't lose yourself in a day. It happens slowly, in ways so subtle you don't even notice the theft. One concession at a time, one suppressed desire, one silenced instinct. By the time you realize something is missing, it's already gone. The illusion of the authentic self. We like to believe that identity is fixed, that deep down there's a true self waiting to be uncovered. But the reality is far more unsettling. You are not a static thing to be found, but a fluid process of becoming. The ancient Greeks had two words for life: the external, chronological life, and Zoe, the vital, indwelling force. Most people mistake bios for existence. They measure their lives in years, achievements, and possessions. But Zoe, the raw, unfiltered pulse of being, is what truly defines you, and it cannot be measured, only felt. So why do we keep trying to quantify the unquantifiable? Because society rewards predictability. From the moment you're born, systems, familial, educational, economic, mold you into a functional unit. You are taught what to think, not how to think. You are trained to seek external validation because it's easier to control a person who looks outside themselves for answers. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to navigate the world. But the tragedy isn't wearing the mask, it's forgetting that it's a mask at all. The existential betrayal. There's a moment in every life when the script fails. Maybe it's at 3 a.m., when the silence is too loud and the achievements feel hollow. Maybe it's in the middle of a crowded room, when laughter rings false and you wonder why you're there at all. This is the whisper of your unlived life. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger described it as angst, a profound unease with the superficiality of existence. It's the creeping realization that you've been sleepwalking through your own story, mistaking comfort for meaning. But why does this happen? Because you were never meant to live someone else's version of you. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote that the deepest human need is not pleasure or power, but meaning. Yet most people spend their lives chasing happiness, a fleeting sensation, while ignoring the call of purpose, which is the only thing that endures. The cultural hypnosis modern society is a machine that runs on distraction. From birth, you are handed a menu of identities: the good student, the loyal worker, the responsible parent. These roles aren't inherently wrong, but when they become cages, they strangle the soul. The French philosopher Michel Foucault argued that power doesn't just control bodies, it shapes minds. Institutions, schools, corporations, even social media discipline you into conformity without you ever realizing it. You internalize the rules until they feel like choice. But the most insidious lie? That you are free. You believe you're making decisions, but how many of them are truly yours? How much of your life is a reaction to expectations, to fear, to the invisible pressure of normal? The 20th century philosopher Herbert Marcuse warned of repressive desublimation, a society that gives you just enough freedom to keep you docile. You can choose between brands, between careers, between lifestyles, but never question the system itself. And so, you remain trapped in a labyrinth of someone else's design, convinced you're moving forward when you're really running in circles. The fear of nothingness. At the core of this self-betrayal is a primal terror. The fear of being no one. From the moment we gain self-awareness, we scramble to define ourselves, through labels, through roles, through stories. Because the alternative is the abyss, the terrifying possibility that beneath it all there is no solid you. The Buddhist concept of anatta, non-self, suggests that identity is an illusion, a constantly shifting mirage. The existentialists like Sartre argued that existence precedes essence. You're not born with a purpose, you must create it. Both philosophies lead to the same unsettling truth. You are responsible for your own becoming. And that's the rub. It's easier to live a borrowed life than to face the enormity of inventing your own. The fork in the road. So here we stand, at the crossroads of self-deception and self-creation. One path is familiar, well-trodden, lined with the approval of others. The other is dark, uncertain, with no guarantees, except one: it is yours. The choice is not between happiness and suffering. It is between authentic suffering, the kind that comes with growth, and manufactured happiness, the kind that leaves you emptier than before. The Austrian psychiatrist Wilhelm Reich once wrote, "The truth is not a thing one acquires, but a slow and painful process of stripping away illusions." And the greatest illusion of all? That you are not already free. But freedom is only the beginning. Because once you see the chains, you must decide, will you wear them or break them? And if you choose the latter, what then? You don't notice the weight of the mask until you try to take it off. At first it feels like relief, like breathing after years of suffocation. But then comes the resistance. The world does not reward those who step out of line. The price of authenticity is friction. And most people, when faced with that friction, retreat back into the familiar lie. The silent war inside. There is a battle being waged beneath the surface of every normal life, a war between who you are and who you were told to be. Neurologically, this conflict is real. The brain craves consistency. It constructs a narrative self, a story of who you are to make sense of existence. But when your actions clash with your deeper instincts, the brain rebels. Cognitive dissonance sets in. Anxiety, a hollow sense of fraudulence. You feel it in moments of hesitation before you speak, in the dull ache of unexpressed desires, in the way your laughter sometimes cuts off too quickly. These are the tremors of a fractured identity. The psychologist Carl Rogers called this incongruence, the gap between your real self and the self you present to the world. And the wider that gap grows, the more you pay in quiet despair. The domino effect of self-betrayal. When you abandon yourself, the consequences ripple outward in ways you never anticipate. 1. The paralysis of choice. Every decision becomes agony because you no longer trust your own desires. You seek external validation for everything. What to wear, what to believe, who to love. Nietzsche saw this coming. The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. 2. The addiction to distraction. The modern world offers endless escapes, social media, entertainment, substances, all promising to fill the void where yourself should be. The French philosopher Blaise Pascal observed this centuries ago. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. 3. The death of vitality. Depression is not just chemical. It is often the body's rebellion against a life unlived. The psychoanalyst Alice Miller wrote that the loss of the true self is the root of all illness. 4. The echo chamber of relationships. You attract people who reflect the mask, not the man beneath it. Love becomes transactional. You perform, they approve. No one truly meets. The cultural hallucination society is not just indifferent to your self-discovery, it is actively hostile to it. Why? Because a world of self-aware individuals is harder to control. Consumerism relies on your insecurity. If you were truly content, you wouldn't buy half of what you're sold. The workforce needs replaceable parts. Original thinkers are liabilities. Even spirituality is commodified. Quick fixes, packaged enlightenment, gurus selling answers to questions you've never asked yourself. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls this the burnout society, a culture that pathologizes rest, glorifies busyness, and replaces depth with dopamine hits. And the cruelest twist? You blame yourself for failing to thrive in a system rigged against your humanity. The neurological prison, your brain is wired for efficiency, not truth. Confirmation bias keeps you trapped in old beliefs. The spotlight effect makes you overestimate how much others judge you. The mere exposure effect conditions you to prefer familiar misery over unfamiliar freedom. These are not bugs in the system. They are features. The brain's primary goal is survival, not authenticity. It will choose safety over sovereignty every time, unless you intervene. The point of no return. There comes a moment, often in crisis, when the cost of pretending outweighs the fear of change. A breakup, a breakdown, a betrayal, a brush with mortality. These are not tragedies. They are mercies. The existentialist Søren Kierkegaard called this the dizziness of freedom, the terrifying moment when you realize the cage was never locked. But here's what they don't tell you. The cage was also your hiding place. And now, with nowhere left to hide, you face the ultimate question. Who will you become when no one is watching, not even yourself? The fork in the road. This is where most turn back. The weight of the unknown is too heavy, the gaze of others too piercing, the path of least resistance too seductive. But for those who keep going, who dare to step into the abyss, something extraordinary happens. The fall becomes flight. The silence becomes a voice, and the question that once haunted you becomes the answer. You begin. The moment you realize the prison has no walls, that the bars were only shadows, is the moment your life splits in two. There is the before, the life of borrowed dreams, performed emotions, muted longings. And there is the after, the uncharted territory where every step is yours alone. Rebellion is not an act of violence, it is an act of remembrance. The first and final no. All revolutions begin with refusal. You must say no to the life you did not choose before you can say yes to the one waiting beneath it. This is harder than it sounds. Society punishes dissent, not with shackles, but with silence. The unspoken rules are clear. Fall in line or fall through the cracks. But history's most liberated minds, from Diogenes living in a barrel to Nietzsche wandering the Alps, understood one truth. Freedom is taken, not given. Your first act of defiance? Stop asking for permission to exist. The art of unlearning. You cannot build a new self on the rubble of old lies. The process begins with demolition. 1. Question your shoulds. Every time you hear yourself say I should, ask, who said so? The philosopher Foucault was right. People know what they do. Frequently they know why they do what they do. But what they don't know is what they do does. 2. Hunt your triggers. What insults wound you deepest? What compliments puff you up? These are clues to where you've outsourced your worth. 3. Embrace the discomfort of nakedness. Spend time with nothing but yourself. No distractions, no performances. As Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The counterintuitive path. The way out is not forward, but inward. 1. Cultivate conscious disobedience. Do something small but symbolically defiant. Wear what you want. Speak your odd thought. Like Camus' Sisyphus, find rebellion in repetition. 2. Seek experiences that shatter you. Travel alone. Have conversations that scare you. Try a job you might fail at. The existentialist Kierkegaard was right. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Lean into it. 3. Reclaim your attention. The digital age's greatest theft isn't your data, it's your gaze. Where you look determines who you become. Choose wisely. 4. Practice radical self-betrayal. Occasionally do the opposite of your instincts. The habitual self hates this. The true self wakes up. The alchemy of suffering. Most run from pain. But the rebel understands, your wounds are the cracks where the light gets in. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz by finding meaning in suffering. Nietzsche claimed, what does not kill me makes me stronger. They weren't advocating masochism, but metamorphosis. Your moments of deepest despair contain the coordinates to your liberation. The key is to stop running from them and start mining them. Ask of every pain, what is this here to teach me? What version of myself is this killing so something truer can emerge? The daily revolution's rebellion isn't one grand gesture. It's the sum of small daily insurrections. Morning, wake before the world can demand your attention. Claim the first hour for yourself. Noon, when asked, how are you? Answer truthfully at least once. Night, review your day not by productivity but by authenticity. Where was I brave? Where did I hide? These acts seem trivial. They are anything but. As the psychologist William James observed, the greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. The same applies to identity, the inevitable backlash. Expect resistance, both internal and external. Your family may panic at your changes. Friends might withdraw. Your own mind will scream, this is dangerous. This is good. The friction means you're doing it right. The anarchist Emma Goldman put it perfectly. The most violent element in society is ignorance, and the most ignorant voice is often your own fear. The point of no return. There will come a day, maybe today, when you face a choice, reclaim your truth or lose it forever. This is not hyperbole. The psychologist Erich Fromm warned that the unused self atrophies like an unused muscle. But here's the secret they never tell you. The moment you choose yourself, the universe conspires to meet you. Not with fanfare, but with quiet synchronicities. The right book appears, the wrong people fade, and suddenly the path you couldn't see is beneath your feet. The final threshold. This is where most guides end. With inspiration, with promise. But you deserve more than pretty lies. So here's the raw truth. You will never feel ready. The doubts will never fully leave. This work never ends. But with each act of courage, the mask weighs less. The voice grows clearer. And one day, without noticing, you'll realize you've become someone you no longer need to escape from. You've been searching for yourself in all the wrong places. In achievements, in relationships, in philosophies, in the approval of strangers. But here's the secret that changes everything. You were never lost, only forgotten. The illusion of separation. The great paradox of self-discovery is this. What you seek is what is seeking. The Zen masters call it the face you had before you were born. The mystics speak of the kingdom of heaven within. Even quantum physics hints at it. The observer and the observed are not separate. You've been chasing your own shadow. The German poet Rilke glimpsed the truth. Perhaps all the dragons in our lives are princesses who are only waiting to see us act, just once, with beauty and courage. Your deepest fear isn't that you're inadequate, it's that you're boundless. The death of the seeker. All this time, you believed enlightenment was something to attain. A finish line. A trophy self. But the final revelation is this. There is nothing to find, only layers to shed. The Indian sage Ramana Maharshi taught self-inquiry with one relentless question, who am I? Not to find an answer, but to dissolve the questioner. You are not the thoughts, not the roles, not even the awareness watching it all. You are the space between these things, the silence beneath the noise, the cosmic joke. Life wasn't hiding anything from you, you were hiding from life. Every moment of suffering, every identity crisis, every sleepless night spent wondering, who am I? It was all leading you here. To the punchline, You are the joke and the laughter, the wound and the healing, the seeker and the sought. The 13th century Sufi poet Rumi understood, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. The end of the journey. This is where the map burns away. No more techniques, no more self-improvement, no more striving to become. Just this. 1. The radical acceptance. The parts you've disowned, the shame, the wildness, the contradictions, were never mistakes. As Jung said, I'd rather be whole than good. 2. The sacred ordinary. Enlightenment isn't transcending life, it's falling in love with the mundane. The way light slants through a window, the weight of a coffee cup, the absurdity of existence itself. 3. The final surrender. Not to a god, but to the truth. This is it. The Japanese call it sono mama, things as they are. The last mask. Even now part of you resists. This can't be all, there must be more. That's the final illusion, the belief that realization should feel like fireworks. But awakening isn't a destination, it's a homecoming. The French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry wrote, "Perfection is achieved not when there is nothing more to add, but when there is nothing left to take away." You stand now at the threshold of your own nakedness. Will you turn away? Or will you finally see the mirror cracked? There is no grand finale, no curtain call, just you. Not the you of past regrets or future dreams, not the you others see, but the you that has been here all along, before the first thought, after the last breath, in the space between heartbeats. This is where life begins, because it never actually ended. The only instruction left. Put down this script. Walk away from all teachings, and live, not as who you think you are, but as what you've always been. The rest is commentary.